Hey everyone, welcome back to Guitars, Whiskey, and Golf. My name is Brian. Thanks for joining me today. So we got 4 inches of snow in Aurora, Colorado overnight, and so rather than playing golf in the spring like I'd like to be, I've got my trusty guitar, and so we're doing a little guitar lesson today. So what do we got today? I wanted to introduce you all to something called the CAGED system. The CAGED system is an acronym, CAGED. So the concept is taking shapes that you already know. So C, A, G, E, D. So those are, C, A, G, E, D, and they're all down in this first position. They're kind of commonly called cowboy chords because, in the olden days, cowboys would strum those kind of first position open chord voicings. So, how can you take chords that you already know, like a C, and move it up the neck of the guitar to make other chords? Well, since there's open strings in the C chord, you can't just move it up 2 frets and call that a D. If you listen to it, it kind of sounds interesting, but it doesn't sound like a D chord. You're probably familiar with this D chord. It's kind of an open, airy sounding, kind of jangly sounding chord. Love the chord. It's a great chord and it's a great sound. But sometimes, that's a very jangly sound, right? Sometimes you might want to play a D that sounds a little richer, a little fuller. And how would you do that? Well, using the CAGED system, so using a shape that you already know, this C, you can move that. But how do you do it? Well, you move it by taking this nut and moving that up 2 frets and barring. So the first 3 strings bar with your forefinger. Then you suddenly have this rich, full sounding D chord. So that is an example of how the CAGED system can be used. That chord now, this C shape, in this position, it is a C chord, right? But once you start moving it up the neck, we call it the C shape because it's no longer the C chord. So now here, it's a D, move it up another 2 frets, and you have a very rich sounding E chord. You might play normally an E down here. It's very low. Depending on the tone of your guitar, it can be very muddy. But this E is a much rounder, and it has more treble in it. Because you've moved it up the neck of the guitar, and the further you go up the neck of the guitar, the higher the register and the pitch of the tones they're going to be. So you take this C that you know, move it up 2 frets, bar your the first 3 strings with your forefinger, and then just use these other fingers to make your normal C shape, and that becomes a D, E, F. Becomes a movable chord for you. And it begins to open up the fretboard a lot, much more to you. So, you might, let's just say you were playing like a B here, up here, and you wanted to go to this chord. Well, you wouldn't want to jump all the way down here. It's a big leap. All of these shapes help you access other parts of the neck more freely. So there's a lot of uses for it. Once you get used to doing this, you also can sort of see the chord tones that are in this D chord right here. Like a little arpeggio like that. I wouldn't play that, but I'm just saying you start to get good at visualizing the notes that are within these chords. And so when you're playing lead lines and things like that, it helps you break out of the minor pentatonic scale, the major pentatonic scale, and will start helping you play more melodically, because you're going to start eventually visualizing the key chord tones in, say, this D using the C shape. You'll start seeing okay, that's a root right there, and you'll start hearing the major third and being able to pick these notes out of the chords as you're playing them in songs. So this is an invaluable bit of knowledge to start to incorporate into your guitar playing. So I'm just going to do the C shape today. So this obviously is your C chord, but it becomes movable by barring the first 3 strings with your forefinger and then making that C shape there. Suddenly you have a D. And by the way, you don't have to use your pinky there. If you wanted to make it just like this, you can do that and not use the pinky. Then just don't sound out, don't play the A string. So that is a shape that guitar players use all the time. So they might be playing something like, right? Simple. I'm going from an A to a D and I'm barely moving. I have my fingers ready to be hammered into that position, and I'm just, so it makes going from an A to a D super easy. Another example of where it's used is, say, by Mark Knopfler in Sultans of Swing. You know, you've got Sultans of Swing, it kind of goes like this. Right? Then it goes to a C, B flat, A7, and then to this F, back to the C. But then Knopfler does this, right? You know, I'm not teaching Sultans of Swing here. I haven't even really played that song in a long time, but that's what he's doing, right? He's got this C, right? But he'll just play this C triad and then use that C shape to hammer into an F, to the B flat, back up to the C, then he goes up here to like an F. Like, that's just a little fill that he does. But in any event, you can see Keith Richards does this all the time, right? That hammering into that shape. Keith Richards made a living in rock and roll doing that kind of thing. So this is an incredibly powerful tool. Once you start incorporating all of Cage, C, A, G, E, D, you'll find that you can start playing chords all over the neck of the guitar. And eventually you can strip out pieces of the chords and just play little fragments of the chords. Like, for example, in that Sultans of Swing, when Knopfler plays, then he jumps up here. Well, that's an F right there. And believe it or not, it's an F using this E shape. Because basically, if you take this E shape, slide it all the way up here, that's an F. But you can just play that little piece of it. So you begin to play, you begin to see that, and you'll be able to play things like, right? That's basically, if you really look at it, that's a D. But you could play a D like this. It's very country sounding. So the point is, when you start to incorporate Cage into your playing, the next step after that is to start to visualize fragments of these chords that enable you to do all sorts of melodic things like, if I do this, well, that's really just that's like the D shape right here, right? And that's an A chord up here, but it's using the D shape. But I could just use a fragment of it and just do something like resolve back to the A. So, that's a whole nother level, pulling out fragments of these shapes. But just for now, I want to leave you with, see how you form your C chord. But then move this nut up 2 frets and bar the first three strings, and then just make your C chord, your C shape, and that becomes a D. It's a bit of a stretch at first, but like I said, you don't have to play the pinky. Just then don't play the A string. And you still got your D there. So start with just learning how to play the C up the neck of the guitar. And then, we'll do other lessons on the Cage system and show you how it can open up the fretboard for you and kind of take you from a beginner stage where you're playing just nothing but these cowboy chords to the point where you're playing chords all over the neck of the guitar. So I hope that helps you out. Thanks for joining Guitars, Whiskey, and Golf. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and take care. We'll see you later.